It's time for CIBL Biz Tips, bringing you actionable strategies to grow and improve your business. Prepare to become civilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? Welcome to CIBL Biz Tips, where we bring you concepts and strategies to grow your Central Illinois business. I'm Derek Hayden. I'm here with Garrett Ulmer. We are your co-hosts, and we're joined again by special guest Bob Woodard of Illinois Public Risk Fund. How you doing, Bob?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Good. Well, we're about halfway through our sessions here, but today we're going to talk a little bit about if an employee actually does get injured, what happens and what's the work comp process look like after that injury. I'll let you take it away.
You bet. So the process itself, and again, there's varying opinions out there as to different agents have different opinions, so forth. The reality is that if you have someone that is injured in any way, shape, or form, whether it's minor or major, report it. The sooner that your work comp carrier can get on that claim, the more proactive we can be, the better able we are to not just mitigate and help control cost, but make sure that that employee is actually going to be able to get back to work on time, going to be able to heal, be back to a productive way of life. And if you wait 30 days to tell us, that's 30 days that we could not be an advocate for you and the employee. So make sure, that's probably recommendation number one. Make sure you're notifying your work comp carrier immediately, so that way we can get right on top of it. As far as the actual notification itself, there's various tools out there. I know, for instance, for us, you can notify us electronically, you can notify us over the phone, a lot of different ways. And most carriers are going to do it that, in a similar fashion. So again, there's really no excuse not to notify us as quickly as possible. As far as what happens from then, we're actually going to have a claims adjuster assigned to that specific claim. They will reach out to that employee. They will help walk them through that process. And that really is a key to a good work comp program, is you don't want those employees just kind of fumbling through the system trying to figure it out. That's not their job. That is not what you want them to be doing. You want them to be focused on getting back to work and healing and recovery. So a good claims adjuster is going to walk them through the process, make sure that they're getting the medical care that they need, whether that is working through the doctor that their family doctor, for instance, if it's something minor, or even coordinating care through the hospitals or surgeons or what have you. It's making sure all of that is taken care of, is coordinated. And obviously, as far as the employee is concerned, making sure those bills are all getting paid. The other component of this is that, again, the sooner we can get on it, the sooner we can do proper discovery and make sure that, this claim actually is legitimate. This is one that needs to be covered. Or in the case of, God forbid, it's fraudulent, we have to then step in as the advocate for the employer and make sure the employer's bottom line is protected as well. So the sooner you do this, the better able, your work comp carrier is going to be able to do their job.
Very good. Right. So when that employee, if they happen to be off of work for, let's say, 10 days, what can they expect? Let's say their regular paycheck is, they make $500 a day, something like that. Don't want to make it too difficult for calculation purposes, but do they just get $500 from the work comp company? How does that work?
So again, there's different rules that apply here. So the first 3 days that you miss work, that's not covered until you have missed a continuous 14 days. Once you have been off work for 14 days, then it retroactively goes back and covers those first 3 days. So that's something that's important for people to know, because oftentimes a work comp claim is usually only a few days, at most. So it's important that they do understand that. In terms of what they're going to receive, it's 66 2/3 of their paycheck is what they're actually going to receive. Now, both state of Illinois as well as federal government consider these payments as disability payments. That's what work comp payments are considered. Well, according to law, disability payments are not taxed. So when I say you get 66 and 2/3, that is what you're netting. You're not then paying taxes, so forth on top of that. But yeah, that's essentially going to then continue until obviously you go back to work. If light duty is offered, then that does change things a little bit. There are some employers that cannot accommodate that, so therefore you're continuously off work, which you'll continue to receive that pay. But if you can go back to light duty, then obviously it's modified from there.
I know one of the common questions we hear a lot, especially on a minor injury, is can the employer continue to pay and not turn the claim in? Say notify you that the claim, that there is a possible claim, but they want to pay for it, so that way that there's not a detrimental charge to their work comp program moving forward.
Bad idea. Don't do it. That's why you have work comp. I have seen the most innocuous claims go south very, very
Sure.
quick. And if you're not notifying us, then obviously there's less opportunity for us to be able to control that and protect you. Don't ever pay those claims. And the other side of that is you're setting a precedence there as well.
Sure.
And you don't want to do that.
Yep. That's good. So how long, let's say an employee is disabled and cannot return to his or her, regular duties.
Mm-hmm.
How long does work comp pay, and what happens in that scenario?
You bet. So ultimately, if someone is going to be off work, say indefinitely, there's going to be, and this is barring certain categories of employees. So for instance, police officers are handled completely different than, say, administration.
Yeah.
So taking kind of those outliers and putting them to the side, in general, it's going to pay as long as you're off work, but ultimately it's going to come down to really trying to settling the claim. What can we do to bring this to a head to make sure the employee is absolutely taken care of, but also to be able to, help control the losses as well. So every claim like that is unique. It really does depend on, is this temporary? Is it permanent disability? Is this, loss of a limb? Is this, a back injury? So every single type of claim is going to have a different type of settlement approach to it. But again, when you're dealing with a good carrier that's really was able to get on this in the beginning, they're able to help control a lot of that.
Yeah. So if you're an employer, and maybe this is going too far into our next topic in session 4, if you're an employer and you are wanting to help get your employees back to work, we'll go more into this in session 4. I think I'm getting too deep for this session, but so you mentioned return to work or light duty. What type of, what's that mean?
Sure. So, you have an employee that is doing working machinery, for instance, something that's physically very laborious, requires a lot of bending and lifting and things of that nature. Well, that employee suffers a back injury, for instance, and they can no longer stand. Is there a position that the employer can offer where that employee can maybe sit for a shift? And so instead of doing what they used to do with being very laborious, very physical, maybe they're going to do something that's far more light duty, more administrative in nature or supervisory, to where they're not going to sit there and have the repetitive type injury that's just going to aggravate the situation. We always encourage our employers to have a solid return to work program, because inevitably you're going to run into a situation where you need that. And so you don't want to be scrambling last minute to figure out, okay, all of a sudden I have to figure this out. Have the program, already in place, be proactive. We'll help you do that. And most of your carriers will as well.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a good spot to stop for session 3. Anything else you want to add, Garrett?
No, I think we covered all bases.
Sounds good. Cool. Well, for all you listeners out there, make sure you're subscribing to the CIBL podcast on your favorite podcast platform. While you're there, give us a quick review. You can also follow us on social media, mainly on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can connect with Garrett and I there personally as well. Until next time, y'all been civilized. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.